Welcome to this Facebook Live in honor of International Happiness Day 2020. More than ever, it's important that we find a way to go grab some happiness. Right now, a lot of us are confined at home. Like where I am in France, we've been confined at home for several days, and it's not always easy. Like not for me either. And before that, we had like the reform of the retirement system that caused a lot of strikes. And before that, we had like the demonstrations of the Yellow Jackets. For my part, I lost my dad almost 6 months ago, my mom 9 months before that. And I know a lot of people who have lost dear ones too. So the ambient mood is really tainted with fear, anxiety, and some gloom and doom. So as a happiness coach, I just really would like to give you a strong message. There are things that we cannot control, that we cannot shape the way we'd like to, but that does not make us powerless victims. In the next 10 to 15 minutes, I'm going to give you 3 keys or practices to go grab a bit more peace or happiness for yourself. So if you don't know me yet, I'm Sonia Weyers, and I earned my happiness the hard way. I've been working at it for a long time. But I wrote this book as the product of my work. So if you're interested, just let me know and I'll tell you how you can get that. So what is happiness is a question I often get. And my personal view of happiness is very pragmatic. So for me, happiness is just our own personal mix of peace. So having a feeling of inner calm, meaning, which I take to mean as being in agreement with our values, and joy, having access to smiling and laughing. And sometimes one aspect is harder to get than the others. And when that's the case, well, we can cultivate one of the others. So today I want to share with you 3 keys or practices or points of view that I've taken from my workshops. So the first key is from my workshop, Cultivate Your Happiness. What's that? The second key is from my workshop, Cultivate Your Happiness When Things Are Bad. And the third key is from my workshop, 3 Practices to Keep Cool. So let's go. So the first key is from my workshop, Cultivate Your Happiness. What's that? And that's to understand the determinants of the variance of happiness. So there are a large number of studies on happiness, and together they show us 3 things that make up the differences in happiness between people. Now, let me see if I can show you this. Yes. Just a second. So here. Do you see that? So the first thing is our genes. So the difference in happiness between people is 50% explained by our genetics. So there's just people for who it's easier to be happy than for others. That's just a fact. We have a genetically determined set point of sorts. And then our life circumstance determine only about 10% of that difference. And that can seem surprising. But there are a lot of people who think of happiness in terms of when. Like I'll be happy when I get a bigger car, or I finally get a house with a garden, or when I find love, or maybe when I can start going outside the way I've been used to. And that's just not how it works. You see that very clearly when people win the lottery, or even when they have a real personal tragedy. Between 6 months and 2 years later, they seem to be back to their previous level of happiness, to their set point, if you want. So we have the ability to get used to a lot of things. Can you see that? So the good news is that about 40% of the variation in happiness is determined by what we do and how we think. And that is in our hands. So we can bring intentionality to how we live. And the good news is that it can also impact our happiness set point. So there's practices like meditation, practicing gratitude, things like that, tends to actually increase people's baseline level of happiness. So let's see what we can do about that, right? And the point of all this is that we can really take responsibility for our happiness. And as with everything in life, we don't have complete control, but what control that we do have is really precious. So let's go to the second key. So the second key is from my workshop, Cultivate Your Happiness When Things Are Bad. And for a lot of people, this would be one of those times. And this key is self-compassion. It's based on the work of Kristen Neff. And in self-compassion, we offer the same kindness and care to ourselves that we would give to a loved one. And it has three components. So the first component is just to observe what we feel rather than judging it. And at the moment, there's a lot of worry, anxiety. Can you feel that? And I really invite you to feel those feelings rather than telling yourself that you shouldn't be feeling that way. A lot of people refuse their feelings or blame themselves for feeling the way they feel. I invite you to simply observe what you're feeling. And I've seen countless times in myself and also in my clients that it is when we take things as they are that we open up the possibility of them being different. The second component of self-compassion is to remember our shared humanity. That is to remember that difficulties and problems are part of life. Everyone has problems, and we are all linked in our difficulties. For example, in this pandemic, listen, there is no contract that we signed before being born that we would not have any problems. And finally, the third component of self-compassion is self-kindness. Imagine what you would say to someone you love who feels anxious right now. Try to tell yourself the same thing. Try to treat yourself softly and with understanding, rather than criticizing and judging yourself. There's a meditation called the loving kindness meditation, sometimes also called metta. It helps to cultivate self-compassion. And in this meditation, we wish positive things, first upon ourselves, then to different groups of people, and at the end to all humanity. You might know this meditation, but I invite you right now to experiment it with me. We'll do just the beginning and the very end. So get comfortable, close your eyes if you can, and repeat to yourself the sentences I'm going to say. So we will start by sending loving kindness to ourselves. And it goes like this. May I be safe and protected. May I be happy and at peace. May I be healthy and strong. May I live with ease. And may I be held in loving kindness. Now let's send loving kindness to all living beings. May we be safe and protected. May we be happy and at peace. May we be healthy and strong. May we live with ease. And may we be held in loving kindness. You can open your eyes. The third and last key from my work is from my workshop, 3 Practices to Keep Cool. And this one is breathing with our diaphragm. Sometimes we feel difficult emotions. The current crisis is causing a lot of people a lot of emotions, unpleasant emotions, sometimes even panic. That can be hard and also not so helpful. I'm going to show you a fast way to feel at least a bit more relaxed. Breathing is directly linked to stress. Let me show you. So do you know where your diaphragm is? I'm going to show you. It's right here. Like if you're a woman, you're wearing a bra, it's like a 1/2 inch below. So it's right here. So put your thumb there. And now I'm going to invite you to take 3 deep breaths with your thumb there on your diaphragm. And when you breathe in, try to push lightly against your thumb with your diaphragm, and then feel your thumb dropping a bit as you breathe out. So it's a gentle push with your thumb. And so try to really slow down your breathing, really fill your lungs with air as you breathe in through your nose, and really empty your lungs as you breathe out through your mouth. So let's take 3 breaths like this. So how was that? So maybe after only 3 breaths, you already feel less stressed, more relaxed, and maybe that's not quite enough for you. We can do 3 more. Would you like that? Let's do 3 more. Here we go. So inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. So breathing deeply is really powerful. When we're stressed, our heart rate increases a little bit and our breathing accelerates and becomes a bit more shallow. It works the other way too, though. When you slow your breathing, it slows your heart rate and it reduces your stress. It's physiological. So there's just one thing. It's just when we need it that it's the most beneficial, but also the most difficult. But we can probably make ourselves take 3 deep breaths with our thumb on our diaphragm, right? So that's it for my 3 tips. And now I want you to do 2 things. First, could you please comment below on how you feel after these 10 minutes or 10 or 15 minutes of boosting your happiness? And also what you're going to take into your daily life to cultivate your happiness no matter what. And second, please share this video with someone who could benefit from it. Thank you very much for watching. I wish you a beautiful rest of the day on this International Happiness Day 2020.